Welcome back, everyone. What's up? It's been a while, but here's my fourth part of my Reliant build. Now, I've been busy masking and painting this thing for a while. I might not get part 5 done for next week, but we'll see what happens. But enough about that. Let's dive right in. Where did we leave off? Ah, yes. The saucer. We're about to seal it up. And as you can see, all my wires that I need are there. The wires that go towards the nacelles, towards the roll bar, all of them are there. Fish through the support column and the support rod for the model. And here you can see I finally sealed it up. And I'm holding it together with some clothespins. Clothespins are very useful, as I mentioned in another video. So anyway, here I'm testing the lights to see if they work. I'm testing the nav lights. Even though they're not connected to the flasher board yet, I'm testing it with some batteries to make sure that they still work, that I don't have to rip open my model just after I sealed it. And yeah, now I need to attach the flasher boards, which I do in the base. Right, Simon? In the base. I put them in the base, learned my lesson the first time, never making that mistake again. Always in the base for me. So here you can see they work, right? They flash on and they flash off. Everything is working great for now. Now, you may have noticed that there were a shit ton of light leaks along the rim of the saucer. That's because I had a lot of trouble filling in those pesky grid lines along the edge. I had to sand a lot of my primer off, and, well, then the light started leaking out again. Anyway, I have to prime this thing to make sure that there are no seam lines, and to help light block this thing a bit better. So I start off by masking my spotlights, little rectangles of yellow tape to mask the spotlights. And then I spray painted it. I painted it with a rattle can. I didn't want to use my fancy good primer for this. Not yet, anyway. So I sprayed it. The light leaks are mostly gone. Looks well. However, the rim had this nasty seam line that would not go away even after priming and sanding. So I had to keep doing it more and more and more. And this took for fucking ever. But I eventually got it, right? However, there were also other seams on the back, which was normal, right? I got rid of that pretty easily, and underneath, and I had to prime even more and more and more, priming the edge over and over and over again until eventually it was light blocked. But my luck ran out because it cracked. The glue gave out on the edge of the saucer. On the two sides, actually. That was just a photo of one side. Both sides had the same issue. So I had to fix it. And the best way to fix it is, instead of using styrene glue, because it broke on me once, I didn't want to use it again, I decided to use an epoxy resin. Now this is a 2-part epoxy, so it's pretty strong. So I had to sand away where there might have been little paint chips going into the crack, pry it open with my hobby knife just a little bit, and push the resin with a toothpick into the crack, smooth it out, clamp it down with clothespins. Yep, handy stuff as per usual. So I did it on both sides, it solved that problem, and I learned a little bit. I need to actually handle my models a little bit rougher to make sure that things were glued properly, or, better yet, glued properly to begin with. Duh. Anyway, it is now properly light blocked. All the rim is blocked, underneath is blocked, the back is blocked, everything is ready to make this thing look a little bit more like the Reliant, and that's by adding the nacelles. It's time for me to solder onto the connections and glue the nacelles to the sides. This was a big step for me because it was my first major assembly on this model. Aside from sealing it up, this was actually, progress, and scary because if the wires I had set up for the nacelles didn't work, I'd be kind of fucked. Should have tested it, but luck was on my side. It worked. It's all attached. It lights up very nicely. As you can see, the grills on the nacelle light up blue perfectly. The spotlights shine a little too much, but they shine well enough. Now I just had to do a little bit more assembly on the top. Make sure the roll bar support triangle things, I don't know what to fucking call them, attach them to the top, make sure they were glued, and this thing was ready to go, ready for paint, except one problem, as per fucking usual. Remember all that priming and sanding and priming and sanding I had to do along the edge to make sure it was light blocked? Well, I should have been priming the whole model rather than just the edge, because it left little bumpy shits all over the hull. The hull was super, super, super rough. Like, it felt like it was 100 grit sandpaper. It was really, really bad. I don't know why I didn't notice this until I was ready for paint. Like, I ran my hand across the saucer and it felt rougher than my cat's tongue. Like, what the fuck? So I had to sand everything down. But when I sanded everything down, I was going through the layers of primer, going through the layer of my light block, the black I put on it before, and it gave the ship a really weird look to it. It looked kind of run down, kind of cool, but not the Reliant I want to do. So yeah, that looked pretty shitty, but it worked out well in the end. I eventually did paint it white, but you'll see that in another video. But now there was a reason why I wanted this to be smooth, right? I could have left it bumpy, I could have not sanded all the way down to the black part of the primer, but I had to sand it really, really smooth, all the way up to 800 grit. Why? Because I'm painting this with pearl colors, and if the surface is not smooth, the pearl color will not show very well. You would have to put a thick amount, leave these giant hard lines from the tape, really hard to sand away, and it was not what I wanted. It would be really, really flat. And it wasn't really good for me because I was using interference pearl colors. I'll explain what those are a little bit later on in this video. But anyway, I was done with the saucer for now. Now it's time to go back to the roll bar we left off at in the last video. So I believe we left off at the roll bar being primed, light blocked, and ready for detail painting. Now, on the studio model, at least on the Enterprise, I believe it never actually had white paint. I think it was white primer that they sanded really, really smooth, because, well, that's what I did. I spray painted this with white automotive primer, and then I sanded it all the way down to 1000 grit. Wet sanding, of course, right? Now, before I went to detail painting this, I was using Model Master detail paints for this model. Now, I've never used them before, so there's a reason why I did that Klingon D7 beforehand and the Enterprise Ds, because I want to practice with the Model Master paints. They were a lot different than my Tamiya paints. They thinned a little differently. I had to get special thinner. It would sometimes clog on my airbrush. I could never get the hang of it, so I had to practice with some smaller models first, and I eventually got the hang of it. So here you can see I masked the entire roll bar, because it's small enough to be masked. Not a lot of masking tape is used, so I masked the whole roll bar except for the leading edge, where I painted a light sky blue type color, where it was just on the leading edge. Next, I used a second blue for like grooved parts. I don't know what to call them. They're like sort of inside the roll bar in the middle. It's a darker blue gray. And then, of course, there was the third blue. This was the deepest blue, a really dark blue. It's various spots all over the roll bar. I was using reference photos from the actual studio model to see where these blues and the blue grays would go, and it turned out pretty well. I had to do little touch-ups here, sand off some little bleed marks, but it was fine in the end. It looks pretty cool. I tested the lights to see if they work, and the lights work pretty well. Even in the dark. Actually, in the dark, it looks like those dark blue areas are black, which kind of looks like what it did in the movie. So, pretty cool. I like it. Now, say hello to this guy. This guy comes over to my house once in a while to see what I'm doing. He's a very talkative cat. Although, once in a while he runs into my house while the door's open and eats my cat's food. I really shouldn't let him do that because, well, it's my cat's food, and this is my neighbor's cat. But anyway, let's move on. Alright, all the detail paint on the roll bar is done. This thing is ready for some pearl paints. Now, the pearl paints are going to be different pearl colors. There are a couple of types of pearl pigment powders out there. These ones are from Pearl X. I have both the regular pearl colors and the interference pearl colors. I'll be using the interference ones for this model. These ones flip when you're looking at them at the right angle. Red flips to green, green flips to red, blue to gold, gold to blue, etc. Right? This will give the model life. I don't know how else to say it. It'll really make it pop, I find. So I applied the masks from Orbital Dry Dock, and these masks work really well, really easy to do. I put them both on the top and the bottom. These are going to be painted pearlescent blue. They look blue now, right, on the mask. The paint is sort of shimmering off blue from the camera angle. But if I take the mask off and I point them at the different angle, they look kind of gold. But when I turn them around a bit, oh, they're blue again. Pretty cool in my opinion. I really like that effect. But that's just the first layer. I'm going to actually use all 4 pearl colors on this thing. So the next step was to put the other set of masks that Orbital Dry Dock gave me, all these little rectangles. I removed a few here and there to do the next color. I know gold is the more predominant color on this model, so I put a lot of gold, and then a few little red and a few little green spots, and the effect is absolutely stunning. These next few shots are just going to show what the pearl effect is on this roll bar, and it looks amazing. I mean, look at that. The camera doesn't quite do it justice, because the camera only sees it at one viewing angle. We have 2 eyes, we have depth perception, we can see a wider range on this model if you were looking at it in person. But here, look at this. These are the inverted colors. The blues are gold and the golds are blues, etc. But when I turn the angle a little bit, boom, this is the same spot. The colors are completely different. I fucking love it. Beautiful. And the last thing I did on this roll bar were the decals. If you ask me, the decals make the model. Now, these aren't the normal decals. These aren't the decals that came with the kit. The kit decals are garbage, and they were old and yellowy and crappy and scratched and whatever else, because this was not... I didn't buy this kit new. It was really, really old. Anyway, these decals are from JT Graphics. JT Graphics does amazing, amazing decals. Better than A Creation, in my opinion, but amazing decals. The silvers on the chevron shine. They're very, very transparent. You could barely see the film, even though the model is mostly flat. It's incredible. JT Graphics also does different registry numbers for the Reliant. Well, for the Miranda class, they could do the Saratoga, all the other variations that were on DS9. You can make any of them. Incredible. Look at that. It makes this model come alive. I love it. But that's enough of me tooting my own horn. I guess you're getting kind of tired of that anyway. Tune in next time for part 5. Yeah, we'll be reaching part 5 of this build. I'll be continuing to turn this crappy model into the lovely Reliant. Thank you for tuning in. Man, I really love that effect. Ah!